Okay, let's call this meeting, the Haysville Planning Commission, to order. First item of business is roll call.
Welch. Meyer. Coleman. Here. Randall.
Here.
Asia.
Here.
Wellington.
Here.
Chatwell. Green. Paula.
Here.
Roden.
Here.
Stock. Here.
Next item is the presentation of approval of minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
Motion and second to approve the minutes as mailed. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Under new business, we have zoning code addition, tiny homes, primary structures less than 599 square feet. In order to create an opportunity for everyone to speak in their opinions and present information, the Haysville Planning Commission follows a specific procedure. A copy is available by the door. Your attention to this procedure is appreciated. We now formally open the public hearing to consider changes to the zoning regulations in the city of Haysville. Staff, please present the case.
Good evening, Commissioners. It's been a very long time since we've seen each other. Before you, I provided you with basically a corrected version of the tiny home subdivision regulations. We noticed a couple of just basically typos for the most part. So they are redlined in your document. We did change out in a portion of that where it says 2015 International Residential Code, we changed that language on the one to say currently adopted International Residential Code. The tiny home district regulations was put together for the purpose of allowing builders to come within the city to build a subdivision of tiny homes. This code is written so that tiny homes cannot be placed in any other zoning district outside of its own district. So in essence, if there is a single-family residential home that gets destroyed and the homeowner wants to rebuild, they cannot rebuild a tiny home. They can't build a tiny home on that lot. They have to
Isn't that
build.
already in our existing code, though?
I'm sorry?
Isn't that already in our existing code?
Yes.
Okay. Just to be
I'm
clear.
bringing that up because this question has been brought up several times, so since this was sent out. So I wanted to make sure I clarified that. And I'm open for any questions that you may have. I do have the city inspector here to answer any building code questions that you may have.
Any questions for city staff?
I have one. I saw quite a bit of information about how they're built, et cetera, et cetera. As with mobile homes, some of these small homes are built on trailers or mobile. At some point in time, if most of the area is vacated and there's only one or two left, are there any provisions at some point in time to do away with these, or will it always be that way, or
I mean,
what's a contingency plan?
well, first of all, if there is, and no activity on the subdivision within 2 years, so once it's platted for tiny homes and there's no activity at all for 2 years, it would then come back to in front of Planning Commission for rezoning, if the city feels it's necessary to do. If in the future we do have, say, for example, somebody does to create the subdivision, and there's a bunch of homes built and people live there and then all of a sudden nothing happens, we will probably go back again to address it at that time. Again, rezoning most likely will happen.
Okay. My problem or thought was, there's 3 people left in this housing addition.
They would be left alone because at the time,
Okay.
they were built when the zoning code was existing at the time, so they would be left alone.
Okay.
And to be honest with you, it'd be up to the property owners at that time to be able to do that. So, to be able to change it at that time. So the city can't just go in there and just arbitrarily change it, because at that time, there was already homes built. But we may address it once the property owners come forth and say, okay, well, we want to build a bigger house. And so we would have to look at lot merging and changing zoning.
Okay, that was my question.
Yes.
Any more questions for Rose?
I have one more.
Rose, I asked you if there was any area site under consideration. I understood from you there is not at this time.
No, there is no site within the city limits of Haysville that is for consideration. None. This
Either
is
in the
just
city limit
opening
or
the door.
out.
This is just going to open the door for a builder, a contractor, a builder to come in and plat. If he wants to buy up some land and turn it into a tiny home subdivision, this will allow him to do that. But he has to, again, of course, go through planning commission for the approval of the tiny home subdivision.
That would all come to us,
Yes.
so we would get to choose.
Yes.
We would get the opportunity to help guide that. Everything's going to require a zone change because this doesn't exist. So we would approve wherever that goes if this happens, at that later date when the land is already picked.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions for Rose? Okay, then. Now is the time for any member of the public to speak. You have 5 minutes. If you are presenting good, factual information, this may be extended by vote. Please state your name and address for the record. I have 2 cards. Whoever wants to go first is more than welcome.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me there? My name's Bob Johnson, and I'm new at doing this, so if I stray from the rules, please do correct me. As I said, my name's Bob Johnson. I live at 254 North Exposition Street, Wichita, Kansas. I'm the founder of a nonprofit organization locally in Wichita called Let's Rock and Roll and Change the World. Our vision is to create a tiny home community. We have looked at places in Wichita, but we found one here in Haysville we think would be absolutely incredible. We're looking at the old Bergman property right now. We would like to turn 25 of that acres into a tiny home community, put approximately 150 tiny homes on there. Those homes would be on permanent foundations. As I noticed, I believe your amendment right now, or the thing you're talking about, is it RB 16816, the code, the IRC code?
Could you tell us where that property is? Just
It's down on South Meridian, 85th.
South Meridian and
Yes.
85th?
Yes.
Okay, just so we know what we're talking about.
Yes.
Yes.
Is
South
there-
of Country
Do you have
Roads.
the exact address on?
No, I just need to know generally where we were,
Yeah, yeah. So
for people that didn't know
Bergman's
what the Bergman property was.
Right, right. And like I say, I have a question. Was that, you mentioned the tiny house building code, is that the appendix that was added on, the RB 168, I think is what it is for the IRC?
No, this is the
It's a different
existing
one.
IRC from 2015.
Okay. It's my understanding that that property for us would be absolutely incredible, and I think for the city of Haysville, it would bring in incredible amounts of revenue. I don't think we've realized what that could do. We model on an organization out of Austin, Texas called Mobile Loaves and Fishes by the founder, Alan Graham. It's a tiny home community. It is 27 acres. They have approximately right now 239 homes. Some of those, I think 150 of those are on permanent foundations. They have some are mobile. So it's kind of like an RV park on steroids, I believe, as he calls it. We believe, like I say, this would be an incredible opportunity here for the city of Haysville. MLF down in Austin, Texas has organizations from around the world who come to visit them. That would bring in additional revenue. We went down there to visit 4 years ago when it was still dirt roads, and we met people from England, from Australia, from Switzerland who were there. They have missionaries that come in from different areas of the world to stay there and to help, pouring money into the local community. And I just think this would be absolutely incredible opportunity for the city of Haysville. Is there any questions you have for me?
Did you say 150 homes?
150 tiny homes.
How many
To start.
acres? How many acres is that
Excuse me?
property total? How many acres is that property?
It is 78 acres.
So that's multiple phases then.
It's multiple phases. It's a multiple phase project, yes. We have the business
Is
performa.
150 the total build-out of that
No,
78
there would
acres? It can't
probably be more. That is what MLF started with, 150. They went up to 239 currently.
Do you know what the full build-out at the full 78 acres would be at the density that we're looking at here tonight?
No, because the full amount of the property would not be used for tiny homes. We would probably start with 20 acres, 20 to 25 acres. In addition to that,
First
we-
150?
Right, approximately, yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No. But yeah, like I said, the additional amount of property, because there's existing businesses on there which we would continue to operate to help generate income. There's several generating income opportunities from the organization that we would set up. Some of that property would be used for farming, we would farm it out. But like I say, about 25 acres, so you've got like 50 acres left that we could use for additional purposes.
Okay,
One question.
go ahead.
Clarify who would be occupying these homes?
We have the poor and disenfranchised. We work with an organization who works with the poor, the homeless, but I want to make that very clear. What we are doing is not a handout, it is a hand up. You can't take an individual who's been on the streets for a certain period of time, give them a home, expect them to, everything to be okay. We're going to have the additional support services which are necessary. It's not just the homeless, it'd be the working poor, people who are struggling. People can't afford a $1,000 mortgage anymore. Some of these tiny homes in Austin, Texas right now are going for as low as $200 a month, around in that range. That's feasible, that's possible for people of lower income. So we want to give them the opportunity to do that. And like I say, in addition to that, on site, on our property, we will have the additional support services that are needed for medical, for dental, mental health, addiction treatment services, if those are, those would be required, and things of that nature. So anything to help an individual to thrive and not just survive is what we're going to have.
Any more questions for Bob?
Yes, I do. Who will regulate the order of cleanliness, shall we say, keeping of the yards, the streets, the structures? Will you have a community officer that, like a set of codes?
Yes, we will. And we will live on site. Kimberly and wife, Kimberly and I, will live on site in addition to other members of our organization. So, and if we have to bring in additional assistance and help to manage this property effectively, it will be
Well,
done.
let me be perfectly honest. I have a concern of it possibly becoming a blighted area. And that is one thing we don't need in this area.
Exactly, and I agree. In addition to that, like I say, this is not a handout. When you give somebody a handout, they have a tendency to not be able to take care of their things. We looked at a lot of important programs, taking the best of each program. One of those is Habitat for Humanity. Every individual who has a home in that community is going to have sweat equity put into that. They're going to help build their home, they're going to paint their home, they're going to care for their property, and there will be regulations. We'll have a vetting system too to make sure the individuals that come in there are acceptable for what we're looking at. No violent offenders, no sex offenders, because this is a family community. We want to protect that. In addition to that, I think that if you would look at MLF, Mobile Loaves and Fishes, and see the beauty of that community and what it has added to the city of Austin, I think that is absolutely incredible, and I highly recommend you to do that. And I think if you look at that, you'll see what we're looking at. Because I understand, when you say the word homeless, you have, you see homeless out in the street, and you see areas where they live and all that. This is not going to be like that at all. Like that at all. Like I said, we're going to be policing that. We're going to be governing that. We're going to make sure that everything is acceptable.
Well, I will make this comment. I see that these homes will probably change hands, every 5 years?
We have some that we transitional housing, yes. Some people come in, just need to get up on their feet and get back out on the road. Others individuals, if they want to live there for a lifetime, they're more than welcome to do that. So yes, there will be some transitional housing, there will be some permanent residents who will be there for the long haul.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Any other questions?
Thank you, Bob. Anybody else from the public would like to speak? I have one more card.
Can we come up?
Yeah.
Here's the brochures. I don't know if you, can I approach? Thanks. Yes, I'm
Not all that formal.
I'm used to court. Forgive me.
We can just pass them.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure she's got like four copies. Do you mind just?
Go ahead.
Okay, So I'm just going to reiterate on what my fiance was talking about R&R Tiny Home Village. You have some very good questions. We have a rent-to-own policy that will, those that like to do that, they have that option. So, and we will have on-site managers that will meet those requirements of keeping the village up to code, not violating any trash or, blight type situations. Housing First is not a new program. And a lot of the Housing First programs and models in Kansas have turned into just what you're talking about. And I as well fear that those things can happen. So it will be my duty to make sure that that does not happen to our north. Okay. Also, we are looking at permanent foundations and not, as you talked about, the mobile use of moving up and moving. Because we live in Kansas, because we have the winds, the tornadoes, so on and so forth, we think that a permanent foundation would be much better. It also will add more of that country living that we're all used to. We don't want to come in and reinvent the wheel. The Bergman Farm, the corn maze has been there for multiple years. We still want to accentuate on that business and not totally just wipe it out. Gardening is part of our initiative. It also helps the people that are in our community living to get more involved in the community. They will be required to have volunteer hours within the village and outside of the village. That will be in their contract as they sign in to live in our village. What that means is they have to do those hours in the community cleaning, in the gardens, whatever it is, painting somebody else's house for them. They have to do that. That is a process that has to happen. There has to be some accountability. And we stand firm upon that accountability. And not only that, it helps build pride back into the, into those people that we work with. And we've been working with them for 30 years. So we're well aware of the ups and downs.
Question?
Yeah.
So have you already purchased the property?
No.
Or is it contingent upon?
It is contingent upon, of course, you guys allowing tiny home village codes in your community.
Okay.
We have talked to the realtor who's on the paper, and we've gone out and visited the owners. They know what we want to do. Is there any other questions?
Go ahead.
No.
Have you read this proposed zoning regulations? Have any comments about that?
No, we're pretty familiar with these codes. We've been looking at them for quite some time. Wichita?
These
actually-
specific ones that we're looking at tonight?
Well, it has some differences considering what it is from Wichita to here, but that's pretty standard. We've talked to other people about them.
Well, one of the
go
main
ahead.
requirements in here that, since you're apparently far enough along with this, that you've got a plan in place.
Yes.
The way this is stated, it is your job as the developer to pay for the streets and water and sewer and all that stuff. And is that something you think you're going to be able to do? You've run the
Yeah.
numbers on all that? and
Yes.
It's feasible for you?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's that way everywhere else too.
Is it?
Yeah, Wichita's the same type of scenario, that you would have to have the infrastructure. You would have to pay for that. So, and we know that we know Haysville's expanding that way. We see the water going in. So, we understand that.
Do we have water and sewer service that far south?
It stops at Country Lakes, but it's not that far from Country Lakes, so
So whose responsibility is it to get it to their property?
theirs, it would be theirs,
And it'd be like that under any development, right?
yes.
Okay. Any more questions for?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yes, before I close the
Okay.
public comment portion?
There is another party interested in the Gorgon Corn Maze for the same thing.
Okay. They're not here tonight?
No.
Okay. Anybody else from the public like to speak? No. Public comment is now closed for the commission action. The floor is open to commission members' comments. Nobody wants to go first.
I'll go first. When I got on planning, I made a statement that I would never vote to approve a mobile home going back into Haysville. I think that as a result of what we have already done, it's been a very negative reputation that Haysville has developed. Even with we don't have a great number. Most of them are in South Wichita, and I point that out to people. But still, it appears that it's Haysville, that's our mode of housing down here. I cannot and will not vote for anything like this.
Thank you, Deb. Anybody else?
What about specific questions with the document?
Yeah.
Should I just get with Rose later?
No, because we've all probably got the same thing. I say if we have specific issues with the document, the zoning code regulation themselves, I think we need to discuss them.
Okay. We're not even acting on anything about this. We're just setting
Right.
the stage for them to
Right.
construct.
We're not approving this, we're approving this.
Okay.
You want to just go through item by item?
The little things, I'll pass on. to
Yeah, if it's a
everybody.
typo, we don't need
Yeah.
to cover that, but if it's,
But the stairway and ceiling thing, if I'm understanding correctly, and boy, I hope I can find where this is now. Okay, the stairway, it's on D10G. You got to have 6 foot 2 inches clearance between the nose of the stairs and the ceiling. But how do you do that up here without having a 6 foot 2 inch ceiling height? We're saying that earlier, back in here, it can be as low as, well, I don't think we're requiring a 6 foot 2 inch ceiling height up in the loft, right?
no, I think that's exactly what we're requiring, right?
I don't think so. Is that what we're trying?
Well, this would require, this item would require that, I believe, because
Yeah, it's
The way
just to
it
get
reads.
into,
I think the only place,
this is reading as if the loft is less than 6 feet 2 inches in height, then they have to have a minimum of the platform being 18 to 22 inches depth measured, so.
oh, and see, I sure didn't even understand that. I didn't understand that part at all. The landing platform shall be 18 to 22 inches in depth. I think I get that.
Basically what it's saying is someone that's 6'2" can walk all the way up the stairs, and when they get to the top of the stairs, they can stand and then duck into a little bed, but they've got to walk fully up the stairs and not scrunch down at the top.
I thought that's what it was saying, but I sure see a lot of them. I've watched a lot of these TV shows about tiny homes and things, and I see a whole lot of them that don't have that kind of head clearance. So I just wanted to clarify if that's what this is saying. I guess my point is, I see a lot of these on TV, and they don't have 6 foot 2 inches up here at the top of the stairway. They are ducking when they get to that landing at the top. And item,
Let's get an answer to this first.
I'm moderately unfamiliar with the verbiage of a lot of this documentation because it did come from another municipality. So I would agree with the concept that 6'2" would get you to the loft. but once you're in the loft, you would have a reduced ceilings height.
You may,
In the loft.
you may have a,
Very true. You may have a reduced ceiling height in the loft area itself.
Okay.
and I think the intent is, if you've got a pitched roof and you put the stairway in the middle, as long as you get 6'2" in the middle, you don't have to have that 6'2" all the way at the
Exactly.
bottom.
Because E gives you headroom.
Yeah.
Headroom in the stairway accessing a loft shall not be less than 6'2" measured vertically from the slope line connecting the tread or landing platform nosing in the middle of their width. So you have 6'2" to get to that loft. Once you're at that loft, you will have the allowability to have a reduced ceiling height.
Okay.
So the very next item, the tread depth shall be 20 inches minus 4/3 of the riser height, is that correct?
That is, because the loft section is actually from the recently passed state of Maine building code for tiny homes. And that's exactly what they have in there, is 4/3.
So, did you run through any of this to make sure that it's
Yes, we talked.
what we actually want?
Yes,
We've discussed this today.
well, and the other day.
Yeah,
Section, yeah.
as we're building this, and again, that's kind of a newer portion. I've been sitting here trying to do the calculations to make it work in my figures as well. I'm not familiar with that calculation method, but I will become familiar with that
Well,
calculation
before
method.
I approve this, I think, I gotta tell you, it gives me real concern that we've just blindly copied code from somebody else that you guys haven't vetted beforehand, and
No, we had written this document up, most of this document was written up. And about, I don't know how long ago, one of the items that we were concerned about was the second story or a loft area. And when I discovered that Maine had passed, as well as the state of Minnesota had passed, requirements for building codes, I had Chad and I sat down and kind of looked at it a little bit, and he's like, yes, I agree. And I said, okay, so if you agree, then let's go ahead and transfer that. So we did discuss it and looked at it. That is the one area that we did not do as extensive as we did the rest of the document.
Were there other areas? Why did you choose that?
Because right now, at this point in time, based on my research, the state of Maine and the state of Minnesota, and I believe there is a third state, have actually passed a building code requirement for tiny homes. And all three of them are the same in regards to the loft areas. So
well, this tread and riser requirement just seems ridiculous.
we can modify that too. I mean,
If it takes us this long to figure out what they're trying to ask, it's too complicated. It's treads and risers.
okay,
So,
we can take it out or.
Well, you can't take it out, you just have to modify it.
Yeah, we have to fix
We
it.
can modify it, okay.
Can anybody explain to me what's meant here in item G, the second sentence, I guess? Landing platform shall be 18 inches, 22 inches in depth. I think I understand that. When you get to the landing, it needs to be 18 to 22 inches ahead of you. But then what is and 16 to 18 inches in height measured from the landing platform to the loft floor? I can't.
So you've got 16 to 18 inches from where you're standing to where the bed sits over here.
So the
That-
landing platform is at the top of the stairs?
Yeah. So if you have a loft, you have a landing platform at the top that's however big it says. and
18 to
then-
22 inches from where I am to,
Right, to give you enough
In front
room
of
to
me.
turn around at the top of the
So
stairs.
Yeah,
a bed
okay.
or furniture could not encroach on that area at all?
Well,
So who's going to
a
modify that? I
bed
mean,
can't,
who's
but the
gonna-
furniture can. There's nothing in this code that requires you to not put a plant up there, or a chair, or whatever.
so you got 18 to
Then you
22.
turn, and you've got 16 to 18 inches to the loft floor, which should probably read more like bed instead of loft floor, but,
So that's what helps us get the 6 feet 2 then, I guess.
well, 6 feet 2 is from, yeah, the platform that you're standing on.
Mhm.
But then you have your bed next to you that
Okay.
you could I don't know why that's written in there, that it's got to be 16 to 18 inches. I don't see what that's getting you.
What could be a vertical drop also. Once you're on that landing, you have 16 to 18 inches that could be down for the thickness of a mattress, box springs.
Okay?
Yeah.
Just seems like an odd requirement that it be written into the zoning code.
But it's theirs, not ours.
I know. The next issue I had was under front yard, item B, the tiny home district, the minimum front yard setback shall be 10 feet on interior lots, and on corner lots, it's 10 feet on all sides abutting a street. Well, corner lots aren't any different than regular lots. They still need a front yard and a side yard setback separately, just like all the subdivisions we have now.
Right.
Requiring 10 feet on both sides just means you have less buildable area in that lot, and it makes it harder to sell.
Right, and I did do a preliminary, I did give you a sample.
Okay, let's,
Please excuse me, this was done on Word, I don't have a drawing program, so I had to do the best I could. It is basically to scale for 1 inch for every 10 feet.
okay, so let's talk about your drawing for a minute.
Well, that's, I'm gonna,
First of all, you say 3-foot side yard setback, and this is 5.
yes, because to be perfectly honest with you, I couldn't get the measurement to get down to 3 feet. So
So,
I was left with a 5-foot line, basically.
okay, the 3-foot side yard setback is ridiculous. And the way this is written is unclear. It says a minimum of 3 feet shall be maintained between the adjacent properties. And I don't know if that means the structures themselves, or if it's a 3-foot side yard setback totaling 6.
It's totaling 6.
That's not how this
But
is
they can have
worded.
an overhang. I believe they can have an overhang.
Okay,
The way it's written, the overhang would let them rub.
Yeah.
Because 18 inches comes,
so let's assume that we change that to a 5-foot side yard setback with 0 encroachment. Even then, you're requiring all the utilities not be in right-of-way, correct?
Basically, yeah.
Not basically,
I mean,
that's what it says.
No, they can be, still be in the right-of-way. It's a 10-foot right-of-way, and there is a minimum utility easement 5 feet on either property, so 10 feet per utility easement total combined. And in the backside of the property, it is 5 feet, unless it, when it joins another property, it'd be increased to 10 feet.
So you're proposing a 5-foot utility easement behind the property?
Yes,
And what's supposed to go in that?
underground utilities, if needed.
Water, sewer, cable?
No, the, water and sewer will work the same way as it does in a regular subdivision. And the utility easement in the back, that's gonna be difficult with the 5 feet. If you have properties that are on the outskirts or the edge of the subdivision, that's not enough room. But if there is plenty of room in between the properties, plus in the right of way.
Hold on. So, under general conditions B, number 2, utility lines including but not limited to electric, communications, street lighting, and cable television shall be required to be placed underground. The subdivider is responsible for complying with the requirements of this section, and he or she shall make the necessary arrangements with utility companies for the installation of such facilities. For the purposes of this section, appearances, or which would be cable boxes and whatever, and associated ground equipment in an underground system may be placed above ground but not in the public right-of-way, which is in the
private
backyard.
property.
But we've got 10 feet between these, we have 10 feet now if we change it, or 6. So if they ever need to get back there to access it, they're not going to be able to get any equipment back there.
What's the minimum width of a vehicle?
10 feet is what you'd have to do for
10 feet,
a drive door for a fence, right?
8 feet is minimum access to access an easement
8 feet?
for an easement access.
Okay. So if we've got 6 feet, it's not going to work. Because we've got 6 feet plus the building overhang that may not be 25 feet. If we go to 10, we still have the building overhang that may not be 25 feet. So,
and you're talking about the utility easement in between the properties.
no, I'm talking about utility easement
Just if you could.
just in the back.
Okay.
It's 5 feet, which is arguably too small for both AT&T and electric. I think if you asked them, a 5-foot easement would be what they both want. And if you've already got a 15-foot rear yard setback, why not just make it a 10-foot easement? So that you can get the utilities in there. But I still think that your spacing on each structure is too close at 10 feet apart. So the drive approach, we want to amend to being 8.5 foot wide. Or what's our current minimum drive width?
Currently, it is a minimum of 12 feet width measured at the property line.
What's the purpose of narrowing it to 8.5?
Because the lots would be tinier and.
But the cars were
8.5
not smaller.
No, the cars are not smaller, but 8.5 feet is the minimum width of a parking stall. So we were utilizing that concept basically for a driveway.
Okay, I would say that I would like that changed to 10-foot minimum. Because we've already got a 10-foot setback. The lots themselves, the structures themselves sit far enough back that it doesn't matter how wide you make that drive, it's not going to affect the buildability of that structure.
Does this allow for a deck or anything to be placed on?
It does, just because our normal code does, and this is just amending our normal code. Is that correct, Rose?
Yeah.
They can build whatever they want in the 15 or so feet behind their structure.
That would have to be behind.
Yes. I think our current zoning code limits decks to the backyard, correct?
Not if you have the side yard to allow it.
Okay. We won't have that here.
You won't have that here.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Why are we discussing why didn't we have this in just some of our regular meetings rather than do all this at a public hearing? Why are we holding a public hearing when we never have even seen these documents yet? I just wonder why we're going through all this public hearing rather than having this all worked out before we hold a public hearing.
Well, I think we could have had it worked out a little more, but we need to have a public hearing to bring the codes into the City of Haysville code. To change the zoning code, you have to have a public hearing. I think the issue is that we just didn't start with a great example. So we have to do it here, and if something we're discussing, someone from the public would have an issue with, I think they'd be able to stand up and say, hey, wait,
Okay.
I don't agree with that. So, changing the minimum side yard setback to 5 from 3 and not allowing any overhanging into that. Now we get to the streets. We have to provide one off-street parking stall per lot. But you're proposing, one, that this street be private and maintained by the HOA and paid for by the developer, right?
Yes.
And minimum of 21 feet face to curb, which I think is supposed to be face-to-face curb. The phrase face to curb means nothing to me. So I think what it's supposed to be is 21 feet face-to-face and 41 feet total street right-of-way, which will give you 10 feet clear right-of-way. Well, it'll give you 9 feet, 9.5 feet on each side of the street right-of-way.
I'm sorry, it was 9.5 feet, you said?
Yeah. Face of curb to back of curb's half a foot.
Give me a second, what section are you in?
G, street regulations, the very end.
In 41 feet.
Are you with me?
Not quite. Can you read?
You got 21 feet of street.
Correct.
Face of curb to face of curb.
Right,
Back of curb to back of curb is an extra foot, because it's half a foot on each side of the street.
correct. There's 22.
So you would have had, face to face, you would have had 10 feet from, on each side of the street right away. But you've only got 9.5 because you got the top of the curb
Right.
into it. We have no requirement for sidewalks. Do we intend to have sidewalks?
No.
Are you going to allow on-street parking?
No.
So we're only providing one off-street stall,
Minimum.
okay?
So they can have, this is the minimum for parking on their property, because there's enough room in the front to park, a couple of vehicles, but still have a small yard in the front.
Okay, so does it say in here anywhere you cannot park your car in the yard?
No, it does not.
But that is part of our city code, is that correct?
Yes.
Nuisance, yeah.
Nuisance violations, you can't park on grass or anything.
So if these people have a friend over, they can't park in the yard, they only have one parking stall, where do they park?
Okay, you got a valid point there, okay.
The reason that, the other thing is utilities. We go in there and need to repair the water line and tear up the street. City doesn't own it, that means the HOA has to pay for the street repairs. Is that correct?
Yes.
If the water main will have to be in an easement, so
Yeah.
in as much you are correct.
So, are you aware of that?
No. The extra parking that we're aware of, a lot of that happens in Mobilos and Fishes in the community center, which is the hub of the village. It isn't basically, you have two parking lots in front of one individual home. Depends on, and it depends on how many people live there. If you have a one-person home,
Right.
if you have a four-person home, you probably have two cars. So I think you should take that into consideration.
And it-
What is the capacity of these homes?
I'm sorry?
On the size you're talking about, what is the capacity?
They go from one-person dwelling up to a family dwelling, and that's the higher range. That's at your 500 square foot, 499 square foot. So the single home dwellings would be the lower square footage. Is that what you're asking?
How many people,
She's saying it depends. There's different size structures, not all of them are 20 by 30.
on the ones you're talking about?
It'll slide because there won't be just 499
Okay,
square
on the
foot.
largest one.
On the largest, there are 6 individuals that can fit into the larger homes. And that's. a
2
family.
adults and 4 kids, or 6 adults?
Who's
Either
to
or.
say whether it's children or adults? It's 6 people in
Okay.
that, I know. I don't think it's clarified in any of the village paperwork that I've looked at.
Okay.
I don't think it's clarified in such a manner that it's 6 adults or 2 head of household and children.
Okay.
I don't think it's-
Either way, there's no maximum occupancy requirement written in our code, so it could be
Yeah, I've never
as
seen
many
that.
people as you can cram in there.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I hope not.
Well,
Great.
so I have a lot of issues with all of this. It doesn't seem very well thought out. It seems like it's going to create problems. And maybe provided we get these things worked out, we could maybe move forward with this. But I think there are enough unanswered questions for me right now that I am not interested in voting yes to this.
I didn't finish my questions either.
Sorry.
No.
We can go through them
Yeah.
if you'd like. And I didn't mean to cut anybody else off if you've got additional things that I missed. Or you've got additional things that you'd like to.
I would like to hear Clay's.
Why allow the 18-inch overhang? We're saying, this is item 6B, right on the last page. Minimum of 3 feet shall be maintained between the adjacent properties. Overhanging eaves, gutters, and chimneys are permitted at no more than 18 inches into the 3-foot side yard setback. Why wouldn't you want to maintain that 3 foot and not allow the 18-inch? Because if both homes do the 18-inch, then they're rubbing.
I
Yeah.
think the reason why that Chad and I were thinking along those lines was because of the reduced size of the lot, is what we were thinking. So, I mean, that's something obviously we can take out or change.
I think the fire department would probably
Yeah.
want to see at least the 3
Fire
feet
department
maintained.
said as long as they have room to get through, they're okay, and they have to have fire hydrants on the street, and they can get to it, they're good to go. And they also have to have turnaround on the street, so,
That'll be expensive also. But we changed that to 5-foot side yard setbacks and completely clear, so no overhang. That's one of the things that I had.
Okay, so this section will probably be scrubbed then anyway? Or- Okay. What, the parking regulations, item F, it says see section 500.
Where is 500?
Where is 500?
well, section 500 is part of the current zoning code.
We probably, can we spell that out in here? So see section 500 of,
Yeah, it's going to be enough of an issue that it ought to be included in this, because the normal parking regulations aren't going to work if we can't park a car on the street. And we can talk about the number of off-street parking stalls, but at this point, I think I've found enough issues with this that I am,
well, and then we've got, my biggest concern probably is, are we allowing wheels to remain on them, hitching mechanism?
no,
No.
they're all slab on grade. None of them are
No.
on trailers.
In Sedgwick County, I confirmed again for the third time today, in the last year, today was the third time, that they will be, if it's a tiny home that is built on site with a foundation anchored, they will treat it as a real property value when they do their appraisals. So it'll be treated just like real property.
So that's covered elsewhere in building codes. That doesn't even need to be in here, whether they have wheels or whatever.
No, these,
Because we're not allowing it.
any manufactured home or trailer is not allowed
No.
in our regulations. It all have to be stick-built like a regular house.
Yeah, and this even says that in here about being anchored and foundation.
I don't think that's spelled out in here. I mean, I think it's got to be anchored, but I don't think it's spelled out whether or not it could have wheels or...
No, it doesn't say wheels.
Easily movable, I guess, is what I was wondering about.
Clarification.
Yeah.
Current property they're talking about is not in city limits, that's correct?
Correct.
It's in our area.
No, it's not,
It's
no.
an area influence.
It's an area
It's
of
an area
influence.
influence. And all the plating would have to be reviewed by the city on the
Yes.
property before anything's
Yes.
done?
It has to
All
go
the
in front
road
of our planning
plans, all the
commission.
grades?
Yes.
Okay.
Preliminary, everything, drainage.
Okay.
Yes.
Could be pretty expensive, that land's pretty flat.
It's not in the flood zone.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
The workman one?
Well, I will say this.
Yeah.
It's a little hard to feature this. I'm used to looking at plats. How would these buildings sit? How would the streets run? What would the ingress and egress of this area? 150 homes on that acreage, a little hard to vision.
Yeah, we'd have to approve a plat.
Yeah,
We're
I
talking
got
about
that.
just zoning
I got
code here.
that, but
In all of my research with this topic, every architect that I have come across in their preliminary plans for a tiny home subdivision include essentially a cul-de-sac, where in the center, though, it's a large enough cul-de-sac that in the center they have a community building. And then there's a drive or a road going around that community building in a circle. So it's basically going in, and one way to go in, go around that building, come out, is how they
Okay.
do it, so.
got that. Okay. My concern is maintenance of the area. I have a real problem with that. Well, I realize that we're only reviewing building of each individual house.
We're talking about the entire zoning code that regulates this type of development.
I got that.
And if we want to add something in there that it's got to be maintained by the HOA so that the HOA's
Well, I think
accountable.
we absolutely need that. Like I said, they're going to be short-term turnover.
It's not any different than what we required for the duplexes that back up to the railroad
All
tracks.
right.
And if that's something you want to put in there, then we can entertain that.
But then who enforces that? Their
Code-
HOA?
The HOA's got to maintain it, but our code enforcement's going to be the ones that'll,
Well,
And
our
I-
code enforcement
Exactly.
is really in the city.
We've got
Negligible.
violations within the city with stick-built homes. We've got violations.
okay. Any other discussion? Anybody got a motion?
I move we table the action for right now and revise our codes and have our questions answered. I don't know the numerically correct way to say that, but we have lots of questions and answers that we.
I will agree with you that I have a lot of questions, and I've got concerns that even with as much time as I've spent with this, that there's something that I'm forgetting, that we're not realizing that.
I'll second the grammatically corrected motion.
Well, that means I got to grammatically correct it. So I have a motion and second to table the zoning code addition for tiny homes until we can sort through this and get a better set of codes. Agreeable?
Agreeable.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. If we miss something, I guess we just send it to Rose so that the next iteration of this, we won't have this discussion. We'll just be looking at a code that we all hopefully agree with and then judging whether or not it should be in place. No old business. Committee updates?
I have a HFI update. We had the Saddle Club had a rodeo this past weekend. It was Friday night and Saturday night. Awesome attendance. We've been looking for an event that would draw people to Haysville. There were rodeo contestants from northern Michigan, Minnesota, Oklahoma, Texas, Colorado, Las Vegas. The announcer promoted Haysville Saddle Club. The city of Haysville made some donations. They donated land for parking, and the Waco Township brought in rock. It was a joint effort. It was highly successful. Pretty exciting to get Haysville Rodeo back. So hopefully next year. And it was a professional rodeo.
Any other committee updates?
Bicycle and pedestrian, scheduled several things in the calendar, has bypassed them all, but that's going on.
Okay.
We have the mayoral bike ride
Yeah.
coming up next week, Friday. Starts at 6, I believe. Tomorrow is pit stop.
Any other committee updates? Any off agenda?
I have none.
Item
Make a
9.
motion for adjournment.
Second.
I have a motion and second to adjourn. All in favor? Those opposed? Thank you, everybody.